Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It is Dr. Phil here, and this is a collection of fossils. This is just a rock to zero us in on where all of the focal points for the camera are. Over here we have a giant container, zoom out a bit, giant container that I've been collecting and accumulating over the last couple of days. I'll grab a few rocks out of here, for example. Got to be a little bit careful because I had to quickly collect the specimens before the rains came down. But I think you'll find that there's a few things in here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to essentially explore these fossils in front of you. I don't know how long this is going to take, but you know, shouldn't take too long, surely. Maybe I'll go this way. Been in this kind of trouble before. All right, here we go. Zoom in, move this over. All right, so what have we got here? So I'll very carefully start removing some of the debris from it. Or will I? That debris is very hard to remove. I've got a brushy thing. So I'm going to assume, unless otherwise, these leaves are going to be Glossoptera. I think there's horsetails and there's another one beginning with C. Can't remember it. If you're lucky, I'll put the name up on the screen eventually. But if you're not lucky, you're just going to have to look it up yourself. So this is slightly harder. This is the thing. This is the rock is shale, and I'm going to make the assumption that it's Carboniferous. The reason I'm making the assumption is because Newcastle. In Australia, Newcastle is a coal producing area, and Carboniferous is essentially Latin for made from coal. So we can make a few assumptions about this. Any paleontologists who happen to be watching this, if I'm doing something wrong, I am an amateur, so please jump into the comment section and tell me how to do it right. Everybody else who's not a paleontologist, I'm doing everything absolutely perfectly. Alright, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so we've got this, that can still go. So we've definitely got the structure of a leaf here. Do you think I should zoom right in? Let's zoom right in. So this is kind of cool. You've got the structure of a leaf here. Let's have a look and see if you can even see where we are. Okay. So you've got a leaf here. Got another leaf sitting here. And these kind of look like the pattern that you would expect from Glossoptera. So I'm going to assume for the time being that it is. Moving over here, we've got some stem. And I know that people don't necessarily think it's amazing to have some stem, but I do. There it is. There's your stem structure. There's another piece of leaf just sitting there. The story of Carboniferous fossils is not quite complete. People don't necessarily know what went on. The assumption is that this substance called lignin came along and the plants all of a sudden grew using lignin. And lignin is essentially a long sugar chain. Now I'm just going to pry this off, and hopefully I'm not ruining the fossil by doing this. But lignin is a long sugar chain basically. It's a carb. You know, when your bonehead friend says I'm lowering my carbs or whatever else, well, sugar's a carb. Lignin is also a carb, and somewhere in between that is the carbs they're talking about. And essentially, the longer the chain, the more effort it takes for your body to break it up. And lignin is bloody long. And so nothing could break it up at the time. Well, that's the going theory anyway. Nothing could break it up. And therefore, heaps of lignin could just accumulate in the Earth's crust. Eventually, it became coal. And that's why we can make steam trains. this guy, as you can see, it's got quite an extensive amount of stuff here that I don't think, it's very hard to tell because where are we? Can you see this? I'll zoom right in if I can. So this thing here, I think it's a plant root, but it is quite possible that some material, some organic material from the original organism has survived. I'm going to assume that is not the case here. I'm sure there's a paleontologist who's tearing his hair out at me at this point in time, but you know, you weren't here helping me get these things out of the ground, so no. Let me just take this away. So the goal here is to try and to preserve as much of this fossil as possible. I'm just checking this spot out here, over here. It's a slightly raised area, and what I want to do is I want to get rid of it if it's not useful, but I want to preserve it if it is useful. I mean, sounds like, you know, the best sports commentators ever, what they do. The object is to get the ball from one end of the ground to the other and to score some points. Thank you, sports commentator. And yes, it doesn't matter if I'm discussing football, cricket, or soccer, or any of the in-between sports. So if you're American, whatever else, you've always encountered these commentators that have really inane things to say. Okay, well that's starting to look good. I wonder how much detail I'm actually removing by brushing it like this. It's your fault, paleontologist, because every single paleontology thing I see on TV, there's some guy with a toothbrush. So what I'm seeing here, I'll clean this up later with a bit of an air thing. But what I'm seeing here, you can see the leaves here. This projection here is leaves. There's also something underneath, and I'm wondering, do I want to go and have a look at what's underneath? Or should I just leave this as is? Preserve it, because I've got some materials to preserve it with. Okay. Alright, the thing that I was poking at over here, that's actually a star-shaped stem, and that is a part of a plant. So I'm going to leave that. I think that this is the maximum level that I can go here. All I can do really is just clean it up, make sure that there's no dirt on it, and just flip it over and have a look what's on the other side. I think this is pretty much as prepared as it can be, because I'm pretty certain that all of the stuff that's on display now is fossil material. I'm just having a look at the other side. What I'll do is I've got a test ring somewhere. I think this is too small. I have to make another one, but that's okay. Relatively easy to do. What I'll do, because I think that this thing needs to be displayed in 3 dimensions from the looks of things. Like, there's no place where there isn't a good piece of fossil material sticking out somewhere. The sides are just as good as the front, and man, oh, look at this. Look at this here. I'm going to zoom in on this. Yeah, Loki's going nuts. Okay, I may have to try and get this piece off because you can you see that? Okay, so that's an Equino something, or a horsetail. So we found Glossoptera, we found another one beginning with C, and we found this horsetail. So this is quite a decent chunk of rock. I think it's well worth having a crack at getting this piece off here. To try to carefully excavate off the leaves that are sitting underneath there. We'll zoom back so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see these plant leaves here. They're really good. They're obscured by this piece of rock here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at what this rock actually is. Probably it's got something else really cool on it. What do you know? Look at that. And I'll I've got to be careful taking that off, haven't I? Glad I cleaned it up a bit. So let's clean up the rest of it and see what we get. Okay, well, I'm getting some pretty epic detail here. Can you see that? Look at that, that's amazing. I think this is stem over here. I don't think that's animal. I haven't found any animal, well, not confirmed animal parts anyway. I really want to have a go at taking this section off. I'll just find out what this section actually is before I destroy it. Just like everything else, there's something cool on it, right? So this is the rule, isn't it? Just be careful with what you're doing. What's that? Is that a piece of Exudate, or is that actually... that can go. Finally, a tiny piece can go. That's part of the detail. Okay. And the things that I was saying, that was not in camera shot. I'll zoom right out. Okay, so what we've got here, I'll actually clean this up in post, I think, but we've got stem, we've got all of the materials that you would expect to see in plant debris, and it's just every little layer that I'm uncovering shows another piece of detail. So I don't think I'm going to cut any pieces off it, because I think it's perfect the way it is. It's just beautiful the way it is. Look at that. And this is piece number one, just a random ranging shot basically, and I've got hundreds more like it. Look at that. That's yeah, that's a chunk of stem. It's just sitting in there. It may be worth separating it, but probably not. So what I'm going to do very carefully is I think I'll rinse this out. I think this is it is shale, but I think it's robust enough to accept a rinsing. But I will give it a bit of a test rinse before I do that. Last thing I want to do is ruin it. What I'm doing here is just rubbing down this section to find out what this section actually is. The one thing I found out about these things is that they don't necessarily get laid down in layers. They get laid down in 3 dimensions. Yeah, that is a piece of the stem, is it? I'm going to use the zoom feature on the camera because it's handy. I have to use a microscope even. But you can see the horsetail, it's plain as a nose in your face. This thing, however, yeah, I think it's a piece of stem. The jutty outy bit is what tells me it's a piece of stem. And I'll show you the jutty outy bit. Just there. You can see it, yeah, just there. That bit kind of juts out. It's like a star shape, and that's how you can tell it's a piece of stem. But man, like, as I kept uncovering more and more stuff, it became more and more beautiful. I am really stoked with this piece. And this is piece number one. I've got so much other stuff to uncover yet. I think I'll do something similar. Okay. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just record that like so. You can see it like that. It's pretty good. I'll flip it over. You can see the other side. So that's piece one from my unboxing, and it's an absolute cracker. Alright, I will stop this recording and upload this, and you can enjoy that at your leisure. Dr. Phil out.